The marks of Cain. I liked two things about smoking. Well, three. After a few weeks of making me feel faint and violently sick, I started to look forward to it. Secondly, it was one of the few actions in life that made you pause, listen and think. Suck, inhale, a tickle in the throat, and breathe out. 5 seconds of reflection and silence. And we four liked to smoke. Well, 3 of us. Big Kenny, Plem and myself. Little Brownie didn't smoke, but he'd been mates with Big Kenny and Plem since infant school. The 3 of them played rugby for our school team. It was the generally held view that Plem stood the best chance with Gaynor Nash, the smoky-eyed beauty of our Form 4A5. And thirdly, it was sexy. I felt less like a 14-year-old boy and more like a man. Besides, 15 was coming up in the week ahead. In those 5-second reflective pauses, Big Kenny would jangle the change in his flannel trouser pockets. Plem would hawk and spit without ceremony, and Brownie would either smile at how silly he thought we looked, or look at the birds on the unkempt hedgerows. It was October. There was a chill in the breeze, and though the 3 rugby men didn't seem to mind, I was glad I was the one who wore a vest, even if that made me feel the odd one out. The 3 of them were athletes. Brownie could run with the ball like the wind. When Plem tackled you, apparently your plight was conclusive, and although Kenny was big, it wasn't slovenly, lurching big. It was solid confrontational weight. At speed, opposing players simply bounced off Big Kenny Ford. Suck, inhale, throat tickle, breathe out, long and slow. We blew out our blue smoke and frowned philosophically. It made Brownie smile and shake his head. I didn't play rugby, I played the guitar. They weren't sure about the blues music I liked. They liked Simon and Garfunkel in their un-rugby moments. The Carpenters, Jimmy Cliff. They took my word for it that Rory Gallagher was the greatest for blues. I was an aspiring musician among sportsmen, and I was glad to have Kenny, Plem and Brownie as friends. If our school wasn't exactly tough, it was certainly survivalist. At school break, it would take us 4 or 5 minutes to walk down to the railway lines at the farthest reach of the school playing fields, light up our players' number 6 or Park Drive tipped, and walk back again in time for the bell. Even a slight drizzle failed to deter us. You could see teachers approaching from the school, which gave us plenty of time to put our cigarettes out and deny all culpability, in spite of the blue smoke which must have been visible, even from distance. It was very rare, however, that teachers attempted a pilgrimage down to the railway tracks. Technically, it was out of school bounds, and there were only 15 minutes break for them, too, to have a coffee in the staff room. And besides, they might want a cigarette of their own. But this year a new headmaster had arrived, displacing old Cyril, whom everyone had liked. Cyril had been renowned for never caning anyone, and if he had to, he'd leave the grim business to a more flesh-hungry master, like Swisher Finn, who taught woodwork. Cyril's way seemed to be to treat his members of staff like fellow students, and the pupils like grown-ups. Who knew whether it worked or not, but our school had been a happy one. Cyril's long-term deputy was Mr. Roper, Rye Reggie as he was known, because of what you suspected might be depths of wicked humour behind his lugubrious hangdog expression. But the new headmaster was said to possess an evangelical penchant for discipline, and had vowed to tighten the screws left loose by Cyril's laissez-faire attitude. Today seemed colder than usual. Plem actually let slip a shiver. "You're not cold, are you?" smirked Big Kenny. "It's all right for you. You've got a few more layers of skin than we have," retorted Plem. The reason he was called Plem was that a new form teacher had once asked his name during class registration, and Clem had sneezed at the same time as he responded. The sound he emitted, Clem, gave birth to the nickname, which the teacher had repeated with exaggerated incredulity. Clem? Clem? It stuck. His real name was Paul. "Oh, yeah," Big Kenny began as if suddenly inspired, and his face broke out into a great smile, although that isn't strictly true. Kenny's face always had a smile on it. It was a factory setting on Kenny's features. No breaking out was involved. Even if he were unhappy, the smile never really faded. It was a sigh that told you he might be unhappy, but never the smile. "Me and my brother were in town on Saturday." "Sure, it was Saturday." "Yeah, thank you, Clem. Yes, we were in town and we seen this old boy selling his newspapers on the corner, and he were looking at his watch." "Looking at his what?" "His watch. God, like it were bust or something. He were winding it, and anyway, this really posh-looking young woman walks by, and he goes, 'Excuse me, miss,' 'cause he could see she were posh-like, and he says, 'Excuse me, miss, can you tell me the time?' And she's in a bit of a rush and a strop, you know, and she goes," and Kenny impersonated the lady's voice, "No, I could not," and she rushes past all snooty. "How did she go, Ken?" "Right, that's it," declared Big Ken, puffing out his smoke long and slow. "If you're going to make your own jokes up, shan't tell you." He gave a wide grin of mock sensitivity. "Oh, go on," Brownie urged. "No, you blame smart bollocks here." Clem gave a small grin of victory. "I know that paper seller," said Brownie. "Used to see him selling the Mercury as a kid with me dad. Really weather-beaten face, is that him?" Big Kenny nodded and blew out his lungful of smoke. "He must be 200 years old." "How old, Brownie?" "Fuck off, Clem, I want to hear. So she was really snooty with him, this woman?" Kenny took another puff on his cigarette, inhaled, and eventually continued as a splutter of blue smoke escaped from between his lips. "So his watch ain't working, and he says to her, 'Excuse me, could you tell me the time?' And so she bites his head off, going, 'No, I could not,' and the old bloke just looks at her and calls after her in his huge voice, 'I didn't ask you to marry me, darling, I'm just asking you the time.'